2,086 days ago, Fortnite released the Launchpad, one of the best items ever, but now it's been removed and replaced, and I think the version that we know and love is never returning. But the real OG players will always remember it, along with these 50 other things that unfortunately are gone forever. Like with this first feature, if you're a real OG, you'll remember that you could see through walls in OG Fortnite. Nowadays, when you make an edit, there's actually a gray box that blocks your view to the outside. But back before Chapter 1, Season 5, when you made an edit, you could actually see everything on the outside of your wall, and the players on the other side couldn't see in. So this obviously caused a lot of issues. Once pro players started catching on, Epic saw just how broken and powerful editing was, so they had to make a change. And if you weren't playing back then, you just wouldn't know. Just like the second item on this list, the directional jump pad. I bet a lot of you haven't even seen this item, but yes, this was a real trap back in the OG days of Season 0 and Season 1. You could place this down on a floor and it would only end up in the corner of the floor, and if you walked into it, it would bounce you in the direction you're walking, similar to an impulse grenade. You would avoid fall damage, and people were using this for some cool trick shots, but not a lot of people were using traps back then, and this eventually got removed when Epic updated traps and simplified things to just having spike traps and bouncers. Now that's real OG, but do you guys remember when Fortnite had developer update videos? Whenever there was a new update in Fortnite, some of the developers would actually hop on camera and record a video for Twitter and YouTube, basically explaining the new update and talking about community feedback and how excited they were about Fortnite and its growth. And it was honestly very wholesome and gave us a strong connection to the game and developers. But unfortunately, once Fortnite blew up to massive proportions that no one predicted, it became a little bit too much to try to do these developer updates, especially with how people would be extremely rude if they didn't like an update that was happening. Now for the next item on this list. If you're an OG, once you see the picture of this weapon, you're gonna have a lot of thoughts and memories about it. The OG burst. This thing was loved and hated by many. You could shoot it and hit nothing, and sometimes you would get lucky and triple headshot somebody. But the thing is, we've had so many new burst assault rifles throughout the years, and this design just looks so old, so I think it's never coming back. But one thing I know is not coming back is the old performance mode in OG Fortnite. Yeah, we had an old performance mode, but it was just this one setting that said turn off grass. And honestly, while doing research for this video, I could not find any footage of people playing with the setting on, and I bet you a lot of people didn't even know it existed. But thankfully, we have surviving footage of number 6, the Fortnite Invitationals. These were happening all the way back in Season 1 and Season 2, before the competitive scene even started. Fortnite would invite some of the top streamers and performers of the week, people who had the most amount of wins or were streaming Fortnite, into these custom lobbies, and I actually got to play in one of them. And Daquan actually popped off in a couple of these, double pumping everybody for back-to-back wins, and that's how he put his name on the map.
What I told y'all, get out of my face, let's go. It's nothing, baby, let's go.
Now those will never return, but I think all the OGs will remember number 7, bunny hopping. In Season 6, Fortnite gave everyone the ability to redeploy in Battle Royale, and players quickly found out that if you redeployed and jumped at the perfect time, you would get a boost, and you could constantly chain repeat this with more redeploys and more bunny hops to move extremely fast. It was a ton of fun to move around the map like this, but when Epic saw it was causing a gap between casual players and pro players, they quickly came in and decided to remove it. And now for this next one, I'm gonna trigger a core deep memory in every OG Fortnite player. Remember when there were end games in Weeping Woods? When people saw that the storm was ending in Weeping Woods, everyone knew it was gonna be a disaster. Back then, people did not build, so everyone would just hide behind trees, and as you moved in through Weeping Woods, you would constantly get jump scared and attacked from someone hiding behind a tree. On top of that, back then, you could not even build while near trees, so honestly, it was just a nightmare, and people hated end games in Weeping Woods. But OG players weren't just hiding in trees, because number 9 reminds us that people used to hide in supply drops. That's right, if you saw the supply drop going down from the sky and you ran underneath it, the box would consume you and you would now be stuck in the supply drop. So as soon as someone opened the supply drop, they would find a little bit more than they were asking for. But this next one is weird. If you're an OG player, you might remember when Epic unveiled their bot that cranks 90s. During a Reddit AMA, someone was asking them how they test building features like 90s whenever they make updates or changes to the game, and Epic actually responded with footage of a bot that they created. It wasn't that perfect, but they were 90s, and Epic would actually test this bot whenever they put out a new update. And we'll probably never see that again, just like we'll never see number 11 again, the old game selection screen. Back then, when you booted up Fortnite, you could see the 3 different game modes stacked up on top of each other, and eventually it turned into the 3 side-by-side picture game modes, but that has been changed forever. Now, Save the World can be found in Discovery, and Creative and Battle Royale are all mixed into the same feature. Just seeing this screen and the music it played was so nostalgic. But what about this next one? You guys remember how hard it was to get level 100 in OG Fortnite? So they started doing this in season 6, and you could earn an exclusive banner, spray, and emoticon, but this ended in chapter 2. So these are now extremely rare, and they're probably never gonna do this again. But one thing that's not ever coming back is Fortnite's replay mode contest. Back in chapter 1 season 4, when replay mode came out, Epic held a contest for people to create cinematic stories and movies using replay mode. The person with the best cinematic would actually win a 30-minute call with the Epic video team, some Fortnite merch, and upgrades to their setup, including 10,000 V-Bucks. This was cool, but I don't think Epic is going to ever do this again. And one thing that I know is not coming back, unfortunately, is number 14, the old Scar sound. If you're an OG player, you know what I'm talking about. Seeing a gold scar on the ground, the accuracy, the amount of damage this thing can do, and just the glow that it had, that special feeling of finding a legendary scar is just never coming back. But one thing that I'm glad is not coming back is teamers in OG Fortnite. See, back then there were less servers, and when Fortnite first came out, there was only solos, so you couldn't even play with your friends. And with no anti-cheat to prevent teaming, people could easily queue in with their friends and be in the same solo match. There's times where Dakotas was playing, and every single match he ran into teamers, and things were getting out of hand. Fortunately, Epic added anti-cheat, more servers, and squads for people to play with their friends, and now this is not so much an issue. But one thing we hope was not gone forever was the OG prison on the Chapter 1 map. It wasn't a top 5 POIs of all time, but the design of this POI and just the vibes landing here and duking it out with other players will always be special. But the reality is the POI is a little bit outdated, and if they ever brought it back, it would just be a recreation and not the OG version. Now, something that hasn't changed is Fortnite players' obsession with rare cosmetics. And back then, some rare cosmetics were distributed via codes that Epic would send out or give at different events. But unfortunately, it created a little bit of a black market where people would sell these codes and cosmetics at super ridiculous prices, and desperate players who wanted these rare items would pay. Nowadays, there are no rare cosmetics attached to codes, and if Epic ever gives out codes, it's sent directly to content creators on items that will be available in the item shop anyway. And if you're a real OG player, you'll remember hopping on with the boys to glitch under the OG Fortnite map. There was a hut on the map that you could just break the floor of and go underneath the Fortnite map. And back then, you would not get eliminated if you were under the map, and you could shoot players who were above you. Epic actually gave out a couple of suspensions for people who were abusing this glitch and eventually fixed it. OG players will also remember number 19, the first Valentine's update in Fortnite. They added a brand new weapon that everyone was going crazy over, and it was actually the Valentine's crossbow, which looking back, it was pretty mid, but back then it was all so new and exciting to us. And it even came with a unique headshot sound effect, which was someone giving you a kiss, which is absolutely hilarious. And if you're an OG, you also remember the soccer stadium POI Epic added back in Chapter 1. But when they first added the POI, it was kind of bugged because players could walk right through it and it looked like you were playing on the Nintendo Switch. And another item that's never returning is number 21, the blue revolver. This was the OG revolver in Fortnite, especially because before the Deagle, this was the highest hitting revolver in the game. It wasn't a great weapon, but it felt special, and hitting a headshot with this thing was extremely satisfying. But something that never felt special and just fell completely flat was the smoke bombs in Chapter 1. Epic thought that we would actually use smoke bombs to move from area to area, but honestly, in a game like Fortnite where you can build your own cover, the smoke bombs were not really used. You could not see through them at all, and they were just kind of a waste of an inventory spot. Players have gotten even better throughout the years, so the use of smoke bombs would be completely useless, maybe just for zero build, but even then there are much better items to carry. And you might also remember number 23. Back when Fortnite made updates to the game, they would actually have some mini patch notes on the left of the queue-in screen so you could know what to expect when you're queuing in. Nowadays, that's not a thing. You're just gonna have to watch the next SypherPK video to know what changed in Fortnite. And something they changed that I'm really happy they did is number 24, falling on slopes and taking fall damage. Back then, you could not slide down hills or mountains without potentially falling to your death. So it was very easy to take fall damage back then on slopes because it worked in very weird ways. And Epic decided to update it to where you just didn't really take fall damage while sliding down slopes. But this caused another issue altogether when I knocked down this player who fell 11 stories and somehow didn't fall to his death, costing me the game.
What?
Another great change they made all the way back in season 1 was allowing you to move while healing. And I'm not talking about full-on sprints, but back then, if you moved even a little bit, you would cancel your med kit or a shield potion or big pot instantly. So Epic finally allowed you to move just a little bit while healing to maybe avoid an incoming snipe or just turn around and look around you. And another thing that's never coming back is the weird sideways glider glitch in OG Fortnite. It was a very common glitch where when you pulled out your glider, you would sometimes glitch forward and your glider would end up sideways. And this was happening a lot until they finally fixed it in Chapter 1, Season 2. And don't worry guys, I'm going to get to the controversy around the launch pad, but when Fortnite first added the launch pad, there was something they overlooked. Because what would happen if you got knocked and then hopped on the launch pad? Well, back then you could just launch while knocked and glide around, so Epic decided they had to remove that feature. And another feature that they removed from OG Fortnite, which a lot of players were very upset about, was the EJ Dash. This was the ability to use a ramp to propel you forward while moving. People were using this in all kinds of ways to move faster or just build better, and Epic felt like this was still causing too much of a gap between pros and casuals, and eventually this feature got removed in Chapter 2. Now this next one will always hold a close place to my heart, and we're probably never going to see the return of this. The OG 50 versus 50 LTM. I remember the defaults that would stick a revive while being shot at from multiple directions. It was such a fun LTM. I remember the duo challenges with the Kodas where we'd go 2 versus 30 and take out the entire lobby. This was a great LTM, but nowadays it has been replaced by creative modes and different experiences, and I just don't think we're really getting new LTMs ever again. Now this next one, I'm really happy that they changed because I remember never using this pickaxe because of a certain bug. The volume on the AC/DC pickaxe was astronomical. This was the first pay-to-lose item in Fortnite. The AC/DC pickaxe had this electric lightning noise that played, but it played the entire time, and it would make it hard to hear footsteps or anything that was going on around you. It was just that loud. Epic thankfully learned their lesson and turned down the volume, but number 31 is something real OGs wish was still in the game: the purple tack. This was the highest rarity tactical shotgun back then, and the tacks just hit different. This thing could knock people down in 1 or 2 shots and can do some insane damage with a really high rate of fire. And nowadays the shotguns that we have in comparison are way weaker than what they were back then. Now, you really have to be an OG to remember number 32, the profile tab. Fortnite had a profile tab that would track your games played, wins, and eliminations, and back then, this was a huge deal. Nowadays, people don't really check this tab anymore, and if they do want to check their stats, they'll go on Fortnite Tracker or something else to see it. Now, this next vehicle did return in Chapter 3, but it didn't come with some of the fun aspects that we had in Chapter 1. I'm talking about the ballers, because back in Chapter 1, Fortnite, the ballers were used to go to max height by jumping into the volcano and hanging onto the volcano while it pushed you up. And also players were using it in tournaments and the World Cup to hang off the side of the island. And this was a big deal because back then, if you fell off the side of the island, you would actually fall to your death. So people didn't even really check there, and it was a great place to hide until endgame. Now, another thing that's really not returning is a game-breaking glitch that allowed you to destroy all of Tilted Towers. And Tifu showed this off on his stream where he was able to break one of his builds that was attached to a building in Tilted, and for some reason, the game would destroy the entire building. You could repeat this glitch to take out the entirety of Tilted in just a couple of minutes, and honestly, this was insane, and Epic had to remove it quickly. But another thing that's not returning is the OG Fortnite guides and toys. Back then, you could buy these Fortnite guides that would give you some very weird and interesting tips about how to play Fortnite Battle Royale. There was even these locker books and different toys of OG Fortnite weapons. And of course, now with the updated weapons and updated everything, these things are just a thing of the past. And speaking of the past, some of the bugs we had back then are just extremely ridiculous. Back in Chapter 1, Season 9, when Epic added the prop gun to creative, players discovered that they could turn extremely tiny or extremely huge because their character model and size would transform into the same size as the prop. And we had some funny clips of people cranking while being extremely small or large, and this obviously has been fixed and removed. And if you're a fan of Zero Build, we need to talk about the OG Zero Build mode, Tilted Town. This was a POI Epic added in Chapter 1 where you could not build while in this POI and everything was indestructible. So it actually felt like you were playing third-person Call of Duty, and this was our first taste of what Zero Build Fortnite would actually be like. Now that Zero Build mode is actually a real thing, we'll never see a POI like this again. Nowadays, we have advanced editing, building, and mantling techniques, but back in OG Fortnite, we had straight up exploits, like being able to shoot through doors. Players found out that if you interacted with a door, reloaded, and immediately shot, you could shoot through the door before it even swung open. This was really useful in box fights and fighting in Tilted Towers, and people even took it a step further by being able to jump through fully built walls by editing a window or door right as you walk through them. Nowadays, when Fortnite wants to give attention to a content creator or streamer who supports the game, they might give them a bundle or an icon skin. But back then, CDN III became the first ever streamer to have an emoticon in the Battle Pass. He was an OG Fortnite content creator and one of the biggest creators for Fortnite at the time. So when he hopped on Fortnite in Chapter 1 Season 2 and checked out the Battle Pass, to his surprise, he saw his own community logo in the Battle Pass. OG players will also remember when Fortnite first added the toys back in Chapter 1 Season 5. People were throwing footballs, kicking soccer balls, and shooting basketballs into hoops, and Fortnite actually had features to showcase how far away you were when you scored your shot. People start going for crazy trick shots and awesome plays, and nowadays we just don't have any of that on the map anymore. But I think we're happy they removed number 42 because back then you could carry an infinite amount of rocket supply. There was no max count for RPG ammo, so a squad could carry thousands of RPG shots, and if you ran into a full squad that was shooting you with RPGs, you were basically in World War III and there was nothing you could do before you died. Another thing OGs will remember that we're probably not going to see again is a community dig site. In Season 9, Epic added this big rock that had like 1,000,000 HP, and as every player on the map pickaxed it, it would actually go down, and it took us a couple of weeks to actually break it down. The most recent time Epic tried something like this, people broke the rock instantly with a cow catcher on the first day, and Epic hasn't done anything like it since. Now, unfortunately for number 44, even if we see the return of quad crashers, we are never going to see quad crashers flying across the map like they did in chapter 1. Players discovered if you timed the boost and the angle of the quad crashers, you could infinitely fly across the map, and it was the best form of mobility. But of course, people were having too much fun with it, so Epic decided to remove the quad crashers, and to add salt to the wound, they even nerfed them in creative mode so that you cannot fly around. And now for number 45, we will never get the feeling of the old snipers again. When Fortnite added the heavy sniper, it had a different projectile speed and travel time, and eventually that became the default for all the snipers. But the old snipers just had a different feel to them. The bullet would travel a little bit slower, you had to make more of an adjustment for drop off and travel time, and hitting a headshot snipe in OG Fortnite was just infinitely more satisfying than it is today. And another thing that OG players will never forget and were sad is gone is the old colors and art style of OG Fortnite. The orange light just hit different, and the purple nights was just a lot more satisfying to play in compared to the nighttime we have today. The game felt a lot more cartoonish and had a very unique look to it. And while the graphics have improved throughout the years, there was just a special charisma about how the game used to look. And something OGs could really appreciate is the mini events that Epic used to do back in the day. Like the Tomato Town mini live event where the tomato head actually disappeared in a rift and then came back as a stone tomato head about a week later in another rift. You had to be in game to actually see this go down, and Epic wouldn't even tell us when it was happening. Probably one of the most forgettable events in Fortnite, but if you're an OG, you'll remember it, just like you'll remember number 48, the Deagle one-shot combo. If you timed it perfectly, you could slip an RPG shot into anyone's box and instantly blow them up. And now if you're a real OG, I'm talking December 2017, you'll remember when Fortnite had CSGO styled shooting where you had to aim and adjust for recoil with no bloom. They dropped an LTM called Shooting Test Number 1, and it had this style of shooting, but it got removed quickly after just 2 hours because it was never meant to release. And now for the finale, number 50, the Launchpad. It got added over 2,000 days ago, but it's never coming back, at least not the way we remember it. The Launchpad was a trap that you could place down on any build, but recently we saw it changed into an item that you could throw down. And with the release of Zero Build, traps are just no longer going to be added to the game, period, because you can't use them in Zero Build. The only way we'll ever see it return is in its item form. So the Launchpad that we know and love, the Launchpad that created the Trap Tower and a bunch of other crazy and amazing memories, is gone forever. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're a fan of Fortnite history like myself, go ahead and watch this video right here.